The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to another edition of the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you would like to send us an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And we're coming to you around the world tonight on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and Channel 34 on Simul TV. Tonight, my special guest of this hour is Dr. John Brandenburg. We had John on, I believe it was a couple of months ago. And we were talking about death on Mars, and we were talking about something that happened 300 to 500 million years ago. Now, I'm going to repeat that. We're going to be talking about something that happened 300 to 500 million years ago. And what you're going to be hearing is fact, not fiction. Joining me now is Dr. John Brandenburg. And John, welcome back to the X Zone. Always great having you with us, good sir.
Oh, it's a great honor and pleasure to be on your show.
And to you, my friend, a very belated happy birthday.
70 orbits around the sun, the big 7-0.
John,
getting 70th first orbit.
There you go. There you go. And many more orbits to come.
Yes, of course.
John, tell our listeners and viewers who may not have had the opportunity of listening and watching you the last time you were on the show, tell them about Dr. John Brandenburg.
Well, I am a
and we just lost Dr. John. John, are you still there?
What happened? Yeah.
I don't know. It froze up, my friend, but you're back with us.
Okay. Yeah. I'm basically a plasma physicist working on unified field theory, controlled fusion, energy, and advanced space propulsion. Now, because I've always been interested in advanced space propulsion, and because if you're interested in unified field theory, you become interested in cosmology, you end up thinking about the whole cosmos and, of course, the human place in it. And but I had a strange detour in my career back in about 1983. I was very naive then. Believe it or not, I've been told in graduate school there were no UFOs, and that's what I should tell anybody who asked me. I was working at a big government lab at the time, and all of us students kind of were told this in a group, and we all were talking amongst ourselves around the coffee machine saying, what's going on? Why are they telling us to tell people there can't be any UFOs or warp drive or faster than light travel, meaning people from other stars? And but at the same time, we're trying all just to get our degree, PhD degrees, and get out of there, get a good job. So it tended to be a situation where you basically just did what you were told and didn't ask any questions, and that was fine. Then, of course, I got out of I finished my degree. I got out. I got a good job. And but I was working in another nuclear weapons lab called Sandia Labs in Albuquerque, and we went through the nuclear winter thing came out then. And here we were working in the nuclear weapons lab, and this nuclear winter thing comes out. And not only that, but like 2 weeks later, they started a international crisis that was secret, but we came as close to a nuclear war as we did during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we all knew something was going on. It was called Able Archer 83. And it started as a NATO exercise, and the Russians became convinced. They were very rattled because of Afghanistan and shooting down this Korean airliner, that they were losing the Cold War, and they felt very cornered. And so they decided that the NATO allies were staging a Trojan horse military exercise, and we were gonna attack them in the middle of this supposed war exercise. And the morale among my colleagues just disintegrated. I heard so many people talking about their personal despair that the nuclear winter, there was going to be a nuclear war, and nuclear winter was going to kill off their entire family, even if they got them out of town, away from the blast sites. And it put me in the mood where I thought, gosh, there must be.
All right, and it seems that we have a freezing going on with Dr. John Brandenburg. He'll be back with us momentarily. Craig in Master Control is working on it. Mac Alexander in programming is working on it. We're trying to find out, and Dr. John Brandenburg is back with us. Welcome back, John.
Yeah. For all I know, I've got too many files on my computer. I tried to clear off a whole bunch of them today, and I've been writing a scientific article, and you go on the net and you're constantly grabbing articles and downloading them.
And we
In
lost.
any case, the morale at the lab collapsed. My own office mate, who was a happy-go-lucky character, turned to me one day. He was, I shared an office with him. He was a very pleasant fellow, very happy-go-lucky, but he turned to me in the middle of this one day and said, I used to think that if there was going to be a nuclear war, I was going to race home, get my wife and kids, and head out to the hills. But now I'm just going to get up on my rooftop, 6-pack of beer, and watch the whole thing go. And I'm just sitting there working on some equations, and suddenly he says this to me, and his name was Malcolm, and I said, Malcolm, what kind of beer do you think you'd be drinking? And that made him laugh and put him in a better mood. But anyway, so when I saw this Face on Mars stuff over Christmas break, I suddenly realized, oh my God, there might be a dead civilization on Mars. Just imagine if we found that, it would end the Cold War. So my motivation was to end the Cold War and try to prevent a nuclear war from happening on Earth. And needless to say, we investigated the face in Cydonia and the pyramid nearby it. There's a pyramid nearby it, about less than 6 miles away. And I even found another site where there's two faces, one of which looks very similar to the face at Cydonia. It's a place called, believe it or not, called Galaxis Chaos. So we've dubbed the face of Galaxis. So we have two faces that are very well photographed now. We have the pyramid near the first face. We can find brickwork on that. We found helmet ornaments on the face. So basically, we not only have evidence for a thermonuclear holocaust, but it looks like it was targeted on somebody. And that's the terrible, terrible, sad news about all of this.
All right, before you go on, you were talking about a nuclear winter. And maybe I'm sure there are listeners out there who aren't very well acquainted with the term. So how would you describe a nuclear winter?
A nuclear winter, believe it or not, was inspired by a dust storm observed on Mars that covered Mars from the North Pole to the South Pole for 6 months. It was back in 1971. The U.S. had sent a probe to Mars called Mariner 9. The Russians had sent 3 probes to Mars, but they couldn't be reprogrammed. The American probe, however, had a computer on board that could actually be reprogrammed. So it just went into hibernation and just waited out the storm. But this they studied this storm. They couldn't believe a storm could cover the entire surface of a planet from pole to pole. And then they realized the same thing could happen if there was a nuclear war on Earth. And if that happened, the deaths from starvation and cold would be far greater than the deaths due to the blast and the fallout. So it was a terrible thing to discover, but because it came out just before this Able Archer crisis,
Right.
and the Russians and the Americans both knew about it, it may have prevented a nuclear war. So Mars, a dust storm on Mars, may have prevented a nuclear war from occurring because it made both sides hesitate.
You know,
And-
if the face on Mars is legitimate and the
Yes.
pyramid is legitimate, why hasn't
And they
NASA?
are,
Then
what?
why hasn't NASA confirmed this?
well, that's the $64 billion question, Rob. And being Canadian, where the government is very open and transparent,
Mm-hmm.
just joking. I know your government is just as addicted to secrecy as ours
Yeah.
is. We look at it this way. If you find a dead civilization on Mars, it becomes part of essentially a subchapter of the UFO cover-up. You're covering up the presence of intelligent life in the universe. You don't want the public to find out about it. If they do, then they'll start asking questions about what happened, really happened at Roswell, et cetera, et cetera. So you can understand. And when NASA was first formed, they commissioned a report by a government think tank called the Brookings Institute. And the Brookings Institute said, you might find signs of a dead civilization on Mars. If you find it, suppress it.
But why?
Because they felt it would be bad for public morale and
But
cause
but
people to start asking a lot of questions. And they just felt it would be possibly devastating psychologically to very religious people, et cetera.
if that's the case, John, why are we sending people back to Mars?
Well, that Brookings report was done back in 1960. So
Right.
it's more than half a century after that happened. People are much more used to the idea that we're not alone in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I think the government has decided that they have to break it to the people that we're not alone in the universe. And believe it or not, Mars is the best way to do it. If you find life on Mars, then you found it in the stars. You know, you can extend, and if you find a primitive, extinct humanoid civilization on Mars, these people did not have fangs or horns. They apparently had faces that looked a lot like ours. Then this is much less upsetting to people than telling people there's alien spacecraft flying around at night abducting people and doing sex experiments on them, and there's alien bases on the moon. This, by the way, all comes from a science fiction. The first place where all that appeared was in a science fiction movie called The Mysterians in 1957. It's made by the same group that made the Godzilla movies. And they had UFO abductions, hybrid human aliens, they had human traders, they had bases on the moon, and they had some really spectacular directed energy weapons too. So basically, Mars is a way to break it to the public that we are not alone in the universe without causing people to get that upset. Some people are always going to get upset.
John, stand by. We've got to take our first break. Exonation, our guest.
Absolutely, Rob. Yes.
All right, buddy. Exonation, our guest this hour is Dr. John Vandenberg, and he's got you can find him on Twitter. And we'll be back on the other side of the short break talking about death on Mars. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee, decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and nonverbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.
Welcome back, everyone. Talking about Beautiful Mind Coffee, this portion of the X Zone is being brought to you by Beautiful Mind Coffee. Visit their website at www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Now, before I get back to Dr. John Brandenburg, something else that Beautiful Mind Coffee is doing that is totally unique when it comes to saying thank you for visiting a website. If you visit the Beautiful Mind Coffee website at www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca, you can get access to 50 exclusive TV channels, including the X Zone TV channel, 95 online video games in 5 different languages, as well as thousands of movies on demand, all free. No gimmicks, no catches. You do not have to pay one single red-headed cent. All you need to do is go to beautifulmindcoffee.ca, scroll down, and you're going to see a link to 50 for free. Just click on that. It takes a 3-second or 5-second sign in, and away you go. All this from Beautiful Mind Coffee, their way of saying thank you for visiting their website. Dr. John Brandenburg is my guest. Welcome back, John. A quick question for you. How do we know that the inhabitants of Mars were humanoid?
Well, the faces at both sites look very humanoid. They look humanoid,
right?
And remember the humanoid face, bihedral. It's symmetric right and left, and 2 eyes, nose, and mouth. Is found in a lot of other creatures on Earth besides just human beings. Everything from the praying mantis and to the primates, and then of course human race. And it's actually a very practical face if you're going to be a technological kind of creature, because it's flat. So you don't have a big nose in the way. So you can see stuff that's right below your face if you're working on something like arrowheads or basket weaving, something like that, something valuable. If you're a roving member of a tribe, hunter-gatherer tribe, this is a very practical arrangement for, having eyes, nose.
Okay.
So it's not, the faces are humanoid. They are not strictly human. But they're, at first glance, you just think this is a very human looking face, and it's on three of them, three faces.
Now, what do you think the technical level or the advancement level of the planet Mars was at the time of its nuclear destruction?
Sadly, it looks like it was quite primitive. It looks like Old Kingdom Egypt or the Mayans, old Mexico type of civilizations, building pyramids. They noticed they seem to have fortified a lot of high ground. That's typical of a primitive kind of society, rather warlike. So it doesn't look like, we don't know what the level of civilization is. It looks like it was fairly primitive.
In your opinion, would they have nuclear capabilities?
No, I don't think so.
Then why
weapons,
would
if these are nuclear detonations, we found 2 radioactive hotspots,
right,
that are enormous, and the shock waves apparently went all the way around the planet and collided on the far side, forming another hotspot, what's called the antipode, with some terrain variables thrown in. But the weapons went off in midair, apparently. They didn't leave craters at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There are no craters.
Right. That's
they
right.
set off the bombs
Air blast
in midair to cause maximum destruction. And so the same thing seems to have happened on Mars, only a much larger scale. And the weapons were as big as the Empire State Building, apparently dropped from space. So this does not look like somebody on Mars trying to blow themselves up. It looks as though someone wanted to make an example out of Mars. I've jokingly said Mars is Alderaan in Star Wars, They asked Governor Tarkin why Alderaan, and he says, well, the rebel base Tatooine, that's too remote to make a good example. We want to terrorize people. There's Genghis Khan making pyramids of heads, and at least that's what you look at it and you take in all of this. That's the kind of gut reaction you get, was that this was done. Mars was made an example of. Thank God this happened a long time ago. Whoever did it is long gone, but it also shows you the nature of intelligent life in the universe is dangerous to other intelligent life. I'm sorry. I know that sounds negative, but we must face up to the fact that we are typical in our behavior of intelligent life in the universe. If you want to know what intelligent life in the universe acts like, turn on the news.
Yeah.
And you know that a lot of things that we have done historically to each other are very bad. And therefore, we must face the
consequences.
Well, we must be responsible for that knowledge. For one thing, we have to calm come to agreement on our to set aside our differences in favor of common defense. Ask Captain Kirk, a good Canadian.
Let me ask you
about this.
Let me ask you, John.
Yeah.
This is a two-part question. Number one is, then why are we going to Mars? And number two, is there a chance, or is there the possibility that what happened to the Martians 300, 500 million years ago would happen to new space explorers investigating the planet Mars?
Well, we live in a universe where bad things can happen. Look out, you see supernovas going off, stars exploding, gamma ray bursters, sterilizing entire galaxies they're in. Of course, we know the dinosaurs on Earth perished because of a big asteroid impact. There have been other mass extinctions on Earth that we don't even understand why they happened, but they could have had an extraterrestrial cause. I will tell you that when I made this discovery of this evidence, I reported it to the Pentagon. I didn't report it to NASA. I knew they wouldn't pay any attention to me. So I reported it to the Pentagon, and they sent somebody over to listen to my briefing. He took careful notes. He asked a lot of questions. And I said, what do I do with this discovery now that I've made it? And he said, we'll get back to you. And then they got back to me 6 weeks later, and they said, this was back in about 1990. No, it was actually about 2000, about the year 2000. And they said, through channels, they said, we see no reason why you shouldn't publish this. Which, so apparently they want this to come out. They want the best defense. If you're in the Defense Department and really trying to do your job, the best defense is an informed public who understands basic reality. We now understand we're not alone in the universe, and that we share the universe with people of like passions to ourselves, with all that implies, both good and bad. The Romulans are out there, and the Klingons, so are the Vulcans and the Andorians, if you want to use a Star Trek analogy.
No disrespect, John, but how do we know we're not alone in the universe? Where's the proof?
Oh, the proof is on Mars.
But that's a theory.
We found the pyramid has a square of brickwork missing from it. The face was rephotographed, and they rephotographed it deliberately from different lighting and different viewpoint than we'd seen before, so it looked very unfamiliar. It's got nostrils in the nose and ornaments on its helmet that are linear. And the same thing is true on the face at Galaxis Chaos, the one that looks like the face at Cydonia. So if you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what this means. Not only that, we have lots of evidence that Mars was once a living planet. It's one of them is bright red. It's bright red because its surface is highly oxidized. It's red Georgia clay. It's got ferric iron in the ferric state, which is rust red, same color as our blood. It's called hematite, in fact. So I would argue that we have compelling evidence, basically proof that we're not alone in the universe, that people quite different from us developed independently on another planet, but they had enough similarities that we recognize their creations. So, and what we see on Mars, we can extend to the stars.
Okay, but
I go out at night and I look at the stars.
Yeah.
Which I've done, and I wave. I mean, obviously the universe can't be that hostile. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this radio talk show.
That's right.
But
well,
obviously we have to make provision for, we have to become spacefaring. We have to go up to Mars, find out what happened to make sure it doesn't happen here.
But what happens if we get to Mars and we find out that nothing happened?
Well, then we've at least figured out how to get to Mars. It wouldn't
And
be
what?
a total loss.
But why
no,
is that?
now-
But why is that important? Why go to a dead planet?
Oh, it's not dead. They found that in the spring
Mm-hmm.
and summer, the oxygen levels in the Martian atmosphere and methane levels, both the methane and oxygens are products of bacterial activity.
Right.
When it gets warmer on Mars in the northern hemisphere,
Mhm.
the level of oxygen rises, and oxygen is part of the Mars atmosphere. Nobody can explain why there's so much of it. And then there's
Right.
also methane and swamp gas from decaying, bacteria breaking down old organic matter. And that happens. So you have a cycle of oxygen and the methane rising in the atmosphere in the warm months, and then decreasing during the cold months. The bacteria shut down.
So something is decomposing.
Yes. Well, we wouldn't call it, in this case, decomposing. It's more like old organic matter is being
Okay.
eaten.
Quick question before we go to my break. Is
Sure,
it possible?
Rob.
Is it possible that whatever is on Mars could be dangerous to humans here on Earth, and that by going to Mars, we could be opening up a Pandora's box that will actually lead to the demise of this planet?
Well, actually, Mars is giving us free samples all the time. They found so many meteorites from Mars, more than 100 now. Mars is next to the asteroid belt. What happens on Mars is a big rock from the asteroid belt will hit Mars and knock little rocks way out into space. They'll orbit the sun several times, and then they'll
Right.
end up getting on Earth. So we've actually shared a lot of organic matter, and many of these meteorites have what look like traces of life in them. Now, got to understand, NASA is biophobic. It does not want to find life on other planets, even though it claims to be looking for it. It's like the police detective who's on the take, and he supposedly is investigating. He finds the victim with numerous stab wounds and says, well, it looks like they tripped while they were carving their turkey or something, So it's, and just as proof of this, we sent life experiments to Mars to see if there was life in Mars soil, and they got positive results. They were strange results, but they were.
And we are freezing again with Dr. Brandenburg. We're going to go to our commercial break, and hopefully by the time we get back, Dr. Brandenburg's system will be up and running as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Over the past commercial break, we tried to contact Dr. John Brandenburg, but we had no success. So, unfortunately, we are going to have to get the good doctor back on the show so we can further discuss his, I guess we can call them theories, since, I don't know, there's really no hard scientific proof that I'm aware of. 300 to 500 million years ago, a nuclear war on Mars, the face on Mars, and the pyramids are real, according to the Dr. Brandenburg. And just give me a second here, explanation. I see nope. There's other questions that I wanted to ask Dr. Brandenburg, including his take on the moon hoax. Who knows? What we're going to do is we're going to take an early break here. We're going to play some features for you, members of the X Zone Nation, who are tuned in to us on Simul TV. And I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the hour as the X Zone continues right here from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee, decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and non-verbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem-solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.